Well, that's what they did with the Kennedy assassination. Did you know that? And HSCA says for their stuff, oh, you can't see all this stuff for 50 years. That's because it's so harmless, right? That's because Harvey Oswald acted alone, right? And nobody was associated with him. That's why when they released in 2017, they were supposed to release by the JFK Act 1992, they were supposed to release these files with no black marks on them, everything opened up. You know what we got? Copies of the same old files. Instead of black marks, they put pieces of white paper over where the black was. That's our new version of their new releases of these files. Did they release them all? No. Even Trump said, these others have to be for national security, cannot be released, cannot be revealed. So we had our wonderful new president comes along, okay, and very, very interesting that he too says we can't release these last files. Trust me, when they do release them, they're not going to be the real files anymore.
Yeah, no,
they are never going to release those.
No.
But to say that Lee Oswald, who's supposed to have acted alone, and of course, do you know that I have files showing that J. Edgar Hoover, the day that Kennedy was shot, the 22nd, I probably said this on the last time we talked, but he said when the SAC, that's the special agent in command over in Dallas at the FBI, said, look, we've got these other groups that hated Kennedy. They put out this black, they've got this stuff with black around it saying, welcome, Mr. Kennedy. And that's a death announcement. When you put this black thing all around, it means it's an obituary. And what about these other people who sent, they sent letters, they wanted to kill him. He said, no, we have the right man. Nobody, don't look at anybody else. It's only him. Hoover wrote that the same day Kennedy was shot, only a couple of hours after Lee Oswald was captured. He was captured at a theater at 1:40 p.m. That's what it says on his arrest record. That's an hour and 10 minutes after Kennedy was shot, for God's sake. Right away, they know he's the only one. Why? On that arrest record, it says he's being arrested for the murder of John F. Kennedy and wounding John Connally, all right, and killing Officer J.D. Tippit. He's being charged with 2 murders before they had to ask him his name. They did not have his name to give to the police until they got in the police car, opened his wallet, and read it. They had it all written out.
They had the arrest record already. They just had to fill in the name.
That's right. Then they said, so he's there for 4 hours. He's been, get this, of course he was beat up and all that, but they take the wallet out. Obviously, they're checking him all over, right, for anything else he might be carrying, right? And then they take him and they go and fingerprint him. What did they do wrong? If somebody is suspected that they have shot somebody, before they're fingerprinted, you do paraffin tests to see if they have any nitrates. Because after you fingerprint them, guess what? The nitrates from the print ink, no matter how you wash it, you're going to have some of that left on your fingers. So they give him the test after they did fingerprints on him, and they said, look, he's got nitrates on his hands. He shot a gun. That's what they did to him. But guess what? His cheek passed. There were no nitrates on his cheek. So Henry Waite gets up there and tells the press, this man fired a gun. We have the paraffin test that says so. What he didn't say is this man didn't fire a rifle, because it would have been all over, the blast would be all over his cheeks. Yeah, and there was nothing. So he didn't tell them that. Later, after he's dead, Wade and others, and Captain Will Fritz and others will say, we really never had enough evidence to convict him in a trial. That's right, so they shoot him dead before he ever goes to trial. He's dead. He's in police custody 47 hours, and then he's dead.
Case closed.
That's right. And then they can say, now, 60 years later, we can't release these records because of national security. The national security is that the government killed Kennedy, blamed him. That meant the government was a coup. That means we need to dissolve it and have all new elections. They're never going to do that, ever, ever.
Well, they're being honest. It is national security. It's the security of the national security state. We can't We are
Well, I
protecting
get attacked a
ourselves.
lot for being the girlfriend of Lee Harvey Oswald.
Mm.
And they say, oh, what a fake and what a fraud. And like, no, I have witnesses, new witnesses all the time. We have photographic evidence. I've got, I can fill in blanks, and then 10 years later, I find evidence that that's what really happened. I've done this for 23 years now. So what are they saying about Judyth Baker? They're saying the latest one, Dr. Robert Malone copied your interview. Did you see that?
Yeah.
On his site. So it got 219,000 views right away. All right, your interview. Did you know that?
On Twitter, not
Yeah, on Twitter. Yeah, no, it got viewed. Yeah, and I think that's remarkable. Right away, the trolls, CIA trolls. You know what they accused me of being? They said she's CIA.
Oh, naturally.
Oh yeah, I'm going to accuse the CIA of killing Kennedy. Yeah, I'm going to do that, right? Of course I did, and that means I'm not CIA. Somebody else said, you've got to give us one proof that you really knew. I said, I've got all these. I've got at least 10 witnesses. I've got 3 that said they saw me with Lee and they knew that we were lovers. And then I've got all these other people who I was able to prove that their dad knew me and knew Lee. And because I recognized him with tattoos on his fingers and that he spoke a certain language. And then we have photographs where I said Lee got on a bus that said Crystal Beach. And the family comes out with a picture of Lee, not of Lee, but of the bus where their dad worked, says Crystal Beach. On and on I could go with stuff like that. Lots and lots of stuff. And they're obviously what they have to say then, well, you know, you still don't have tell us the number one proof. You know what it is, my friend? Who else would go and defend the man that the whole government, the whole world says is an evil, horrible man that killed our most popular president? He's an evil person and he deserved to hang or be shot anyway. Why would I do that? What person in their right mind, what did I get out of that? I lost my positions. I lost my job. My family members, most of them won't speak to me. They're ashamed because I had an affair as a married woman with a man who was married, who killed the president and was evil. Why would I do such a thing? Have I become a millionaire? Oh, I did it for the money. Oh, nobody would do anything. And it's absolutely crazy. The only reason is I love him with all my heart and he didn't do it. And when I get justice for John F. Kennedy, it's only because we can prove that Lee Oswald didn't do it. You cannot get justice for Kennedy. You can't get it for Robert F. Kennedy. You cannot get it for Malcolm X. You cannot get it for Martin Luther King until you know the SSC language that is behind. You know, they're going to make me to be little. Oh, she's a liar fraud. That's little SSC. Be little. Because SSC not only stands for the standard speech community, it stands also for the substandard. For example, Mafia has their own big SSC language. When they're talking about omerta, you know what omerta is, right? But tell the people.
I'm not entirely sure. Isn't it like honor? Isn't it shut up?
Omerta is if you know something of value to the Mafia and to how they work, and you talk about it to anybody on the outside,
you're dead.
They can kill you, and you agree to that. Yeah. And so there are different signals and things that can be used. When Lee Oswald, you can look up Grover Proctor, Proctor, look up Grover Proctor, because he found out that there was a call made to a John Hurt, H-U-R-T, and he was in jail, and he could ask to make a phone call. He tried to put through a call to John Hurt in North Carolina. And by the way, Grover Proctor lives in North Carolina. He got interested in that because a woman who came in, she's a telephone operator. She was coming into, they're changing shifts, you know. She saw the operator pull the thing out and tell the policeman told her to, and the policeman told Lee there's no answer. They never put the call through. So Lee could not reach John Hurt. Grover Proctor found out this information from others that were interested in that because the woman took it out, the woman threw it away, the request for the phone call, into the wastebasket. this other operator, God bless her, picked it up and looked at it and wrote down the phone number and everything. So they look it up, and we find out this guy used to be CIA. John Hurt, CIA, way over North Carolina. This is called a cutout. You may hear people like, let's say, I'm going to go out on a limb here. James Files claims that his handler was David Atlee Phillips, and that he was able to call him, and Phillips told him what to do, and so on. Lee himself, who had handlers for sure, wasn't exactly sure the name of his handler. Only near the end suspected it was David Atlee Phillips, because they always had these cutouts in between. They don't, if they meet face to face. He did meet him once face to face, and Phillips made a big mistake. By the way, we have a witness that they met face to face, and we have also Antonio Vestiana. I could go on and on about that. So Lee meets his handler face to face finally in Dallas. Okay, this is early September before he goes to Mexico City, and he sees Antonio Vestiana, who's coming up. Vestiana got there early, and he calls out, "Hello, Senor Phillips." I mean, Bishop, excuse me. Even he didn't know his name. He thought it was Bishop. Excuse me. Hello, Senor Bishop. And Lee said, wait a minute. This man told me his name was Senor. It wasn't Bishop. It was Benton. And before that, it was Benson. And you thought, maybe I didn't hear right. Now it's Bishop. So now he's calling him Mr. B, because he knows darn well whatever name it isn't the one he was given. And it's not the one Vestiana was given. So Vestiana tried to protect himself. He got shot in the head for speaking to HSCA, because he refused to identify him, except to say that he said this was not David Phillips. They had David Phillips there, and he knew him as Mr. Bishop, but almost to his dying day, he finally told everybody, yes, that was the same man. Now, here's James Files saying, I was calling James, David Atlee Phillips. No, that would have been impossible. Man, that high by a 2-bit mafia guy, not going to happen. So I know these things when certain people speak out. I know that they're not telling the truth. It has helped me to fill in a lot of blanks for people, because I know what Lee was really doing, because we were in love. And why would Lee tell me so many things about Mexico City? I'll give you an example. We're in love. Lee has to make himself valuable to the CIA if we're going to live in Mexico and be informants. As such, he has to be pro-Castro so he can inform to the CIA, right? Mm-hmm. So when he goes to the Russians and says, I got to get a visa, blah, 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 that's not the important part. What he delivered is he said, the FBI is after me. That's on record. Lee Oswald tells the Russians that the FBI is after him. Why? It makes him a great spy for the FBI and the CIA. See? They already know he came from Russia. Now he's saying, I'm not happy. I want to go back to Russia. That doesn't mean he really wanted to go to Russia or Cuba. The point is to deliver the message that he is going to be against the USA, and the FBI is after him. He puts a gun out and lays it on the table there. You don't even hear that. To the Russians, okay? There is a person that pretends to be Lee Oswald, that same day later that calls in and says, yeah, I've met Kostikov. This is a Russian assassin, supposedly. That man is an imposter. They know exactly where Lee Oswald is, because Lee Oswald at that time is over in the Cuban embassy. They're calling and saying that Lee Oswald is calling from the Cuban consulate. This is an imposter. And if you look it up, you'll see lots of CIA things saying that was an imposter because he couldn't speak Russian. Lee could speak. He pretended to speak Russian. It was terrible Russian. The real Lee Oswald spoke fluent Belarusian-style Russian. George de Mohrenschildt said he was excellent and almost perfect. Who was George de Mohrenschildt? He was born 10 miles he was born in Belarus, only 10 miles from where Lee Oswald learned Russian in Russia. Okay? Mariana Oswald didn't like Lee's Russian, said it wasn't very good because she was speaking High King's language from St. Petersburg called Leningrad. That's where she learned her Russian. It's like saying John F. Kennedy doesn't speak good English because he has an accent.
Sure.
Or it was excellent. All right. I'm saying all of this because we have Lee Oswald is being impersonated and saying that he's dealing with the Russians. The real Lee Oswald has to say that the FBI is after him, because he wants a reason to be able to stay in Mexico and not go anywhere. See, we're going to meet in Mexico, get quick divorces, and we're going to get married to Catholic Church. Why the Catholic Church? Because that's not on the civil records that the government has in Mexico, which is filled with informants from everybody. It's loaded. They're always looking at those records. But the other thing, Lee puts on his application for a Mexican tourist visa just to get in that he's Catholic. He was not born Catholic. He was raised Lutheran, and he was at that time never ever put down his religion when he became an adult. But he did this time because he wants that document that he's Catholic so we can get married as Catholics in Mexico. So nobody understood why that says Mexico, but it does. That he was a Catholic. And the others, anybody thinking that Lee Oswald wanted to really go to Cuba, which is not true, just pretended, okay? So that people wouldn't know he was staying in Mexico, okay? He wants to go elsewhere, Russia or to Cuba or anywhere else but there, okay? Lee Oswald went on that, where it says he wrote Catholic at a time that Fidel Castro was kicking out nuns and priests and persecuting Catholics and taking their land. Do you think if he really wanted to go to Cuba, when he knew all these people who are Cubans, whatever you do, don't put that you're a Catholic? So there are all these things that people don't know. Why am I bringing this up about the big SSC language and all that? Lee is putting down information to show that he's going to vanish in Mexico. We're going to get new names, new everything. Well, there's a problem that came up, of course. David Atlee Phillips wants to frame him, just want him to get to Mexico so that he can blame him as colluding with the Russians or with the Cubans to kill Kennedy, not Castro. Lee's really out to try to kill Castro for the CIA, which has admitted they worked with not only FBI, they worked also with a mafia to try to kill Kennedy. The mafia and CIA, that's on record. Lee Oswald's mother's sister is married to the mob. Lee is a bridge between the CIA and the mafia. Now, David Atlee Phillips has to do something. The reason I know so much about Mexico City is I'm in love with this man, and he has to tell me he has to sleep with a woman there. What? He said I had to, and he explained. Sylvia Duran is the one that can get visas, like to Cuba, okay, and so on. She's in the Cuban consulate. That's where the person who was an imposter pretended to be Lee while he was over in the Cuban embassy. They knew where he was, so they could go and pretend to be him in the consulate because they knew exactly where he was and what he was doing. So they pretend to be him. And they pretended, we don't think it was really Sylvia Duran. But who is Sylvia Duran? She's the one that made sure he could get all his papers filled out to go to Cuba with this transit visa. Tell me, do you know what a transit visa is?
No.
Well, see, they use this big SSC language. It's simply this. If you're in an airport and you want to go to Paris, you have to stop in London and change planes. That's a transit. You're going to get on and go to London. Lee said he needed to go to Cuba in order to get a plane to go to USSR, which is so silly. Of course, he could pick up a plane to go right back to America, but that's what he said. He needed a transit visa just to get in the airport there, to meet somebody. That's because he was trying to get this weapon off himself so nobody picked it up, see? Then he could get on a plane and go anywhere. He could say he's going to USSR, but actually he would be going back to Mexico. He's not going to say, I'm going to get back on this plane, go right back to Mexico, a different plane. He's going to claim he may even have bought a ticket that he's going to try to go to Moscow, anywhere but Mexico. That's the background. So here's Lee Oswald, and he wants to stay in Mexico, but to be a valuable CIA agent there under a new name, he's already told the Russians that the FBI's after him. He's setting all this up. Sylvia Duran wasn't your ordinary secretary working there at the Cuban consulate. She was the mistress of Carlos Lechuga, the UN ambassador for Cuba. This is big stuff. And there's a record showing that the CIA wanted to recruit her. So here's Lee Oswald sleeping with me. So he explained all this to me. So I went and said, when we live in Mexico, I may have to have a relationship with this woman. So I'm valuable to the CIA. Therefore, he told me a lot of anybody saying, how did you learn all this about Mexico City? It's because I don't want to be jealous or angry or upset, but there are things that they have to do. So he had to explain this, you know. He said, if not, they're going to order me back to Dallas. Well, you know what? They ordered it back anyway. You know what they did? They kept her on hold, ordered him back to Dallas. A few weeks later, Kennedy is shot. They arrest Sylvia Duran and accuse her of sleeping with Lee Oswald. That ruins any opportunity for Lee to ever defend himself that he was trying to get information out of her, see? Because they tortured her to get her to admit something, and then they say, well, she said that under torture, so it really didn't happen. But wait a minute, how did they even know about that? How did they even think of that to arrest her for? And you see? That, you see, is the ways that, and that's why I know so much about Mexico City and what happened there, because Lee is explaining to me all the setup, what he will have to do in order to stay valuable to the CIA, because he's got David Atlee Phillips breathing down his throat and somebody called James Jesus Angleton, who was in charge of him when he was a fake defector. Angleton is a bad guy, and of course he told me either on the phone or face to face, I don't know which, but Lee told me that Angleton told him, all right, personally, that he was disappointed he did not come back in a coffin and he couldn't trust him. So how is Lee going to make himself valuable? He starts doing whatever the CIA asked him to do in Dallas and in New Orleans. That was that was the big dream of his life, was to be a spy. There's no doubt that the person that he admired more than anybody else was Herbert Philbrick of the FBI. He saw 6 or 7 episodes in New York, okay, of I Led 3 Lives, the man who pretended to be a communist and was really working for the FBI. That's on record, even with the Warren Commission, that was his hero. And Lee, as I think I told you before, when does he join the Marines? He joins the Marines October 24. The day before, October 23rd, is when you had the Hungarian Revolution. Lee joined the Marines to fight the Russians. So now we're going to go back to our DNA, RNA, but the reason I was bringing all this other stuff up is we have a government now that truly is trying to be controlled by a new world order, a centralized order that wants all our money to be confiscated and turned into credit card plastic. Mm-hmm. I promise you, once that happens, if they don't like me, I'll never see you again. I'll never be able to get online again. If they like me, just like me even more, I won't be able to buy anything. I will starve to death. I'll be kicked out on the streets. The dissenters, and they can even say, oh, it was a glitch. It wasn't us. How are you going to fight these things? If our money that is dollar bills and all that, we are on the cusp of having it not accepted anywhere, only by digital transfer, period. This is coming, and we've got to stop it. Now, one of the ways we can stop that is at airports. You're going to find most of the places, the airports, will not accept American money anymore, only your credit card. There are still a few places, a few holdouts there where they will. Don't have anything to do at airports. I'm telling this to everybody who flies. Do not buy anything from any airport organization. It can be CNN or any of them. They will not accept your cash. Don't have anything to do with them, buying nothing from them. They want that. I had 2 years ago, I held a conference. It cost thousands of dollars. We had hundreds of people that were online and many, many, many that were meeting at the hotel. At the end, I still owed $3,000 to reconcile. But we already pulled as much as I could out of all my credit cards at the bank. You know, there was still $3,000, but I had the cash in my hand. I had $3,500 in my hand. The hotel would not take my cash. They refused. I later learned the hotel was owned by Chinese. Anyway, I had to find a friend that has had $3,000 plus on her credit card. And I gave her the cash and she paid that. Otherwise, they said that we will never, we will call the credit union on you. You're refusing to pay. I said, I'm not. I said, I've maxed out my cards. We've had a conference here lasting for 4 days. And not everybody's people who paid me, a lot of them paid me checks, and I've got to clear all those checks. And this is a weekend conference. They're not going to clear until Monday evening. No, you have to give us the credit now. And of course, they couldn't do it. If that was my friend Kathy, if she hadn't come by at that time, she was late. I was the last one to leave. I've done all the bookkeeping and everything. If she hadn't shown up, what would happen? Were they going to arrest me? This is what we're facing, folks. They want to get rid of your money. They want to get rid of any kind of, if anything goes wrong with anything they push into your bodies. They've already passed laws that you can't sue them. But you know what? You can sue the job, the people who you're working for some legal firm and they told you you have to take the shot or lose your job. You can sue them. By gum, please do it. Please do it. I can't tell you how many people are hurt and suffering from the side effects of COVID. Long COVID has hit them all. And they're saying, oh, it's COVID that did it. I'm fine. I didn't take the darn shot. And I had COVID for 12 hours and beat it in 12 hours using the right stuff. I don't have long COVID. I'm not having any problem with my immune system. They are. Every single one that reports like that, every one of them had at least one shot. Most of them didn't happen to them until they got two. The stuff does not turn off. And anytime a new virus hits you, it's like throwing fire on the fuel. It's going to do it again, and it's going to start attacking your own joints. It starts creating fibrin, lengthy fibrin threads. They call them clots, but they're rubber. Yeah. They look like rubber.
Yeah, they look like calamari.
They were never meant to. All right, now here are I told you about these 4. Methionine is a start. If you're looking at any of these chemically, you've got valine, serine, and proline, 3 ways to stop it. But what they're giving, with the messenger RNA they're showing us doesn't have any stops on it. That's what I can find. See what I'm saying? Here are the different, I want to read these off to you. These are the amino acids, if that's all right.
Yeah. just a heads up. So I have another show that starts in 4 minutes. So
okay, well, all right.
We can go through them, and obviously we can always do another episode. Just FYI.
Okay, well, basically there are 20 of them, and one of the most important ones in this whole list. Okay, if you're looking at the whole list, what's very important here, and it's really hard to find. If you're looking at it's called alpha lipoic acid, ALA. Anybody who's sick with long COVID, please take ALA plus D3. Please do it. It helps to create stops, and just put it that way. It's the easiest way to explain it. It'll help you. It'll help conquer this. There are many, many things I'd like to tell everybody. Please get my book. Please, I ask you, all of you who watch Dr. Malone, go to me on Twitter. Join me on Twitter. Because I Twitter all the stuff you need to know and try and make it easy for you to understand. God bless you. I hope that you've enjoyed this.
I've thoroughly enjoyed this. You're an absolutely fascinating guest. You are an endless repository of knowledge, and I wouldn't have you on here if I didn't enjoy it. This podcast is a one-man show. I don't have anybody I consult and say, should we have Judyth back on? It's up to me. If I don't want to have someone on, they know, because I won't have them on. So
no, I trust you from the gut. You got to have gut feelings. I applaud you for what you're doing. I hope that you will join me on Twitter. I'm serious. And I'm at Judyth, very easy, at JUDYTH.
I will have that link in the description, as well as the link to your website. And Judyth, I will send this to you when it's up, and we will schedule another one. I would love to keep talking.
Okay, there's lots to talk about.
Yes, ma'am.
In many directions.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Miss Judyth Very Baker. God bless. I will send you this episode when it's up, and I look forward to our next one.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. Thank you so much. Peace.